I have an amazing fact here for you, which tells us virtually everything that we need to know about Mayor Pete's campaign. So this is from David Wright. This shows exactly Mayor Pete's percentage of small dollar donors over time. So in January of 2019, when he kind of first came on the scene, 65.2% of his support was from small dollar donors. By the time you fast forward to April, so that block between April and July, okay, that number drops to 43.9%. So that's a pretty sizable drop right there in small dollar donor support. Then you fast forward even more, the next block, 45.2%. Okay, so it bounces back a little bit. Then, by the time you get to October to December, 38.6% of his donors are small dollar donors. And then finally, by the time you get to January of 2020, 29.2% of his support is from small dollar donors. So, in other words, guys, when he jumped in the race, he was a nobody. Nobody knew who he was. You know, people weren't really taking him seriously. And to his credit, he had to work hard to get his name known and to be taken seriously. And he did that successfully. But then what happened is, and this is the character arc you see with a lot of politicians, is he started out saying hey man, listen, I'm not like the other politicians. I'm a small town mayor. I'm all about the people. I'm a Midwesterner. I represent, that part of the country. It's not just flyover country to me. He was trying to make the case I'm a man of the people. I'm a populist. That's what I'm doing here. And so as a result of that, he got a decent amount of small dollar donor support. 65.2% of his money was coming from small dollar donors. When he got more and more known, then the elite class, the wine cave class, if you will, they took notice. And they saw that his commentary morphed in that brief time frame from oh yeah, let's do Medicare for all. That's when he was getting small dollar donations. Then it became, yeah, well, hey, maybe Medicare for all who want it, and Medicare for all is bad. And his rhetoric changed more and more to the point where he was literally using woke intersectional inclusivity arguments to say that we shouldn't reject billionaire money because we want to have these big tents. The donor class took notice. The wine cave class took notice. The elitists said, we got our candidate. We got our candidate. So he went from having 65.2% of his money coming from small dollar donations when nobody knew him to getting comfy and cozy with the elite donors and the corporatists and the special interests. And by the end, or I should say by January, he had his small dollar donor base cut in half. More of his money, way more of his money was coming from big donors now. And he was doing stuff like fundraisers in wine caves. So, that says so much about Mayor Pete. See, a guy like Bernie is principled. He believes in this position because he thought it through, and he thinks, no, it's wrong. It's wrong to take money from for-profit health insurance companies. It's wrong to take money from Big Pharma. By the way, he got over $100,000 from for-profit health insurance companies and Big Pharma. Mayor Pete did. It's wrong to take money from the military-industrial complex. It's wrong to take money from Wall Street or any special interests, big oil, so on and so forth. So he believes it's wrong. He believes it influences the politician. So he's like, I'm not going to do it. And he doesn't do it. And he's been in politics since roughly 1872, and he hasn't done it. Bernie takes small dollar donor money, and then outside of that small dollar donor money, he has taken some union PAC money, but that's because he agrees with, the union philosophy. So that's why he's comfortable taking that money. So in other words, he hasn't rejected all PAC money. He accepts union PAC money. And then the other thing is he accepts support from National Nurses United and groups like the Sunrise Movement and very grassroots PACs that are very different from the corporate PACs and super PACs. No super PACs, no corporate PACs, small dollar donations, and a very tight-knit group of issues-based groups. So that's Bernie's support, and he takes that money as a matter of principle. He thinks that that's who he wants to represent, so that's who he takes money from. Whereas Mayor Pete, he went from pretending like he was a man of the people to, all right, where's the nearest wine cave? Let's go get some billionaire money. Let's go get some for-profit health insurance company money. Let's go get some Wall Street money. And then I'll go on the debate stage and I'll have the nerve to say, this dude is divisive. I could bring the country together. And how dare you go after billionaires, because billionaires are people too. Hashtag billionaire lives matter. Oh man, Mayor Pete, what are you doing? So anyway, that's what happened with this guy. And unfortunately, this is what happens with a lot of politicians, man. I don't doubt that many of the Democrats who originally get involved in politics, many of them actually go in with good intentions. I don't doubt that when Nancy Pelosi came into politics, she thought, like, I want to make a change for the better. I don't doubt that. But what happens is the system wears you down. And the stuff that you previously thought was bad stuff to do, it actually becomes like the duh position. It becomes the position of like, what do you mean? Everybody does it. And people start feeling like, yeah, I guess that is normal, huh? I guess that's just how the system works. As Elizabeth Warren says, I'm just a player in the game. By the way, another big story, I didn't have this prep for the show today, but I could explain it right now. Apparently she did this whole big thing. I'm the only one up here not taking super PAC money. By the way, that's BS. Bernie takes no super PAC money. But she was saying, I'm the only one who doesn't take super PAC money. Well, come to find out, a couple days before the Nevada caucus, a super PAC comes up out of nowhere, starts spending millions of dollars to back her. And the reason why it popped up at the last minute is because they were able to avoid disclosing the funders of it, because the way the rules work, the only way they'd have to disclose the funders of it is if they started functioning a lot earlier. So now we'll know maybe after the caucus who funded the super PAC, but she was asked about accepting a super PAC now and accepting support from it. And she was like, well, no, what do you mean? I'm a woman. Amy Klobuchar's a woman. We're not going to be the only two up here that don't accept, help. So why is there a different standard for us women? She did it again. She did it again. The Kamala people and the Hillary people that she staffed her campaign with are tanking her. And now she sounds like a total hack, hiding behind gender and woke politics in order to push corporatism. So it's too much, man. And it's really disappointing. But this is what happens to all the politicians, man. Even ones who we thought like, oh, okay, well, this one's somewhat principled, like Elizabeth Warren. No, she fell for it too. She went down that path too. Mayor Pete gleefully went down that path. It is super rare. You have people like Bernie Sanders. There's only a handful of people who were like, no, it is a matter of principle. I'm not taking that money because it's corrupting and I'm not corrupt. Isn't it a shame? Like, really, guys, the answer is we shouldn't have to depend on and rely on, like, legendary, stubborn people who are uber principled to do the right thing. Let's just change the system so people don't have the option of being corrupt. I mean, that's the real answer. Change the system. Change the way we fund politics. Do something like democracy dollars. Get rid of money in politics. Overturn Citizens United. Overturn every case in the Supreme Court. Do a constitutional amendment to ban private money in elections and make it so it's only publicly funded. That's the only way out of this mess, man. Because you're only going to have like 1 out of 100 people who's really principled enough to actually say, no, I'm not taking money from sources I disagree with. So Mayor Pete, Elizabeth Warren, they've all went down that path, and it's really sad to see.